so many people that would react to not just what I did or what I said, but that it was you were a role model for their children, their daughter, someone, themselves. And this idea that you cannot be what you cannot see. I began to internalize that and did feel it was an obligation. And I've changed my view about that. And as my tenure went on, you saw me become, more vocal about that and more involved in things because I realized, and whether it's a woman or any group, people have got to have role models to see what's possible. And that is, in a positive way, an obligation there. Now, with it becomes, I've said to other women as they've taken on their CEO roles, I said, get ready, because everything you do is magnified, everything you do is personalized. I can't tell you that that's fair, but it's what happens. And so just power through and do what it is you think must be done.
So what is your advice to young women out there who want to be you, who want to be leaders?
It's probably the one piece of advice I am best known for, Emily, around the world, and it is my husband that taught me the lesson. It was early in my career. I had interviewed for a job, was offered it, and I was very nervous about taking it. I didn't think I was ready. I thought I needed a few more years. And Mark had said to me when I came home, he said, because I told the person, let me think about this. And I'd come home and Mark said to me, Jenny, do you think a man would have answered the question that way? And in those moments, what I remember is that growth and comfort will never coexist. And so everyone I talk to, I say, look, you just get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that when you're uncomfortable, that means you're learning and growing. And so to your earlier question about fear, I view those moments as like wonderful learning opportunities. And that's my biggest advice.
So have you replayed that story to yourself over the years as you've had moments where you're saying, a man would not do this?
Well, what I've replayed to myself more is go put yourself at risk. Don't worry. If you're nervous about something, fantastic. Or if you're not nervous, equally a concern. Be sure you take on something different and go learn something new.
IBM's shares declined during your tenure as CEO, and I wonder, is there something you think investors just didn't get?
Obviously, you would want your share price to grow, so of course to that.
IBM's shares declined during your tenure as CEO, and I wonder if that was frustrating to watch. I know CEOs always tell us they don't pay attention to the share price, but it has to be distracting. And I wonder, is there something you think investors just didn't get?
Well, look, we did return $43 billion to shareholders during my time frame with dividend, and actually the dividend grew by 100%. But clearly, obviously, you would want your share price to grow. So, of course, to that. And I think the piece in what we had to undertake was the hard work to reinvent IBM for the long term. And that's what we went about and did. We had a tall order to address. We did it. And so I'm really looking forward to now this next chapter for the company.
IBM is hanging a lot of its future on hybrid. How will the company, and how should the company, differentiate itself from rivals in hybrid like Microsoft?
Okay, well, we're clearly the one that defined hybrid, and we are clearly the one, I would say the others have joined us now in this conversation. And so how we're clearly distinguished, we are the only one with an open hybrid cloud. So think of it real simple for a client. This means if it's open technologies, open source, open technologies, you can get access to innovation anywhere. Oh, so A, I get more innovation. B, I can write something once and it can run anywhere. It can run on another cloud as long as you have that hybrid open layer there. And that means it could run on any number of public clouds. It could run on your own cloud. It can run on your private cloud, your on-premise. Okay, perfect. So when a pandemic hits and I worry about where things are operating and need to move them, I am fit for purpose ready. And then once I do that, there's a skills battle out there. Well, all better that I can only have one set of skills no matter what I do. And then, of course, you would guess it's 2.5 times less operating costs. So we are the only, short answer, we are the true open hybrid cloud.
The tech industry more broadly is under fire for stifling innovation. Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook. Having seen so many generations of technology, do you believe we're in a different phase? Do you believe these companies are stifling innovation? Do you believe that legislation or a breakup is in order?
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple of a question, and I don't know about stifle innovation because I take it back a few layers from that. I can remember early on defining, we don't believe we own a customer's data, they do. We will only use it with their permission. Data belongs to the creator. We, in fact, even the algorithms, the AI that comes and derives out of it, it belongs to them. So you make your choices, and then you hold yourself to be audited against them. I think this is more about companies being clear what they believe and then standing up to those things.
That said, your competition and IBM's competition is formidable. What do you think are the biggest challenges that your successor, Arvind Krishna, will have to deal with?
Well, look, I have extreme confidence in Arvind. He is exactly the man. He's a brilliant technologist, architect, sees exactly what this means to be an open hybrid cloud. And so now Arvind's transition will be as we first spin off the managed infrastructure business and then reposition IBM into growth. I mean, we're positioned, and now, as he said to everyone, this is about a growth mindset and a culture of radical candor, and because he now takes it to that step of growth.
When you look back, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I don't think about life that way, right? Because I always believe in that moment you make the very best decisions you can with everything that's happened then.
IBM has a hand in so many futuristic technologies, whether it is quantum computing or AI. It's often so hard to imagine how these technologies are going to actually change our lives in concrete ways. And given what you've seen over the last 40 years, I'm wondering if you would take us 40 years ahead. How will our lives be different in 2060 because of technology?
Well, first off, there'll be lots of technologies you won't even know yet. They have not yet been invented. So I will tell you that, right? So on one hand, you should expect a lot of things you didn't know today. But I do believe that we're going to solve some really tough problems for humanity over these next decades. Look, AI is in its really early stages still of deployment. And so you've yet to see the real benefits of AI to come in front of us. And in that time frame, quantum will be flourishing. And so, quantum, the great sides of quantum are things like drug discovery, materials discovery that will be out there, the speed of how it's done. And so you will see, technologies you never saw before. You'll actually see AI used to reinvent businesses, and you'll see quantum come into real commercialization in that time frame.
All right. Ginni Rometty, outgoing IBM Executive Chair and former CEO, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Studio 1.0.
Launching the best of Bloomberg Daybreak, at least, the major stories driving headlines this week. The OPEC Secretary General says the cartel and its allies are focused on depleting the world's stubbornly high oil inventories. We hear exclusively from Mohammed Barkindo this hour. Is the Dubai party over? Hotel occupancy surged in December as tourists flocked to the Emirate to escape lockdowns at home. But with cases now spiking and the UK corridor cancelled, are things about to change? And President Trump is impeached for a second time. We look at how the turbulence in Washington has influenced global and regional markets. First, OPEC and its allies are focused on depleting the world's stubbornly high oil inventories. That's according to the Secretary General Mohammed Barkindo. He spoke exclusively